G'day peeps, my name is Scripps and welcome back to another Hollow Knight speed paint. Now my speed paint that I did with just shapes and beats was actually quite successful, where I took the different kind of minimalistic designs and turned them into humans, because it's very easy to take these more minimalistic, very simplistic designs and turn them into something completely different. And that's because there aren't so many details that serve, well, both as guidelines but also limitations to your imagination. So it gives you more play space to just take the character and exaggerate the features you like, shrink the ones that you don't, and then maybe even add more features on top of that. And that's exactly what I decided to do with Hollow Knight as well, because just like Just Shapes and Beats, then Hollow Knight has a very simplistic art style. Not necessarily when it comes to background art or world art or any stuff like that, that is very high quality, but when it comes to character designs, then they're very easy to make. And that was actually sort of a criticism that the game received at first, with some game designers and game reviewers saying that the game has too much of a childish or amateurish art style, but luckily that all ended up well for Team Cherry, the creators of Hollow Knight, because that art style sort of ended up becoming a very popular staple for the series. But despite the game seeming like such a near perfect fit for this challenge where you turn simplistic designs into humans, then I couldn't actually do it with the protagonist. I don't know why. Maybe my creative juices just weren't flowing, but my primary suspect is that the knight doesn't have that much personality to him, and he doesn't have much in terms of personality to play around with. Like even in Just Shapes and Beats, much more simplistic designs, like the Sad Boy or just the Cube or Blix or any of those characters, at least they still have a little bit of personality that you can shine through those characters, but the knight doesn't have any. So I decided to go for the next best thing, or should I say the absolute best thing. Yep, that's right, I went for Hornet. She's got a new sequel coming up and she's the protagonist in that game, so I thought why not give her the honor and then turn her character into a human character design. And also, I just gotta be honest, she's a lot more interesting to play around with than the knight. Not in a weird way, just from an artistic point of view. She's got more of a personality to work with, and she's got like some more, at least a little fewer, more cooler features to work with. Even though that might actually not seem to be the case at first, because this is the second drawing that I'm drawing of her. The first one I messed up, and you know, I've just been I have no excuse, I've just been struggling with art block, and I just did not have any idea of how she would look as a human. And also just be at least a little bit interesting. I didn't want to make her a complete translation from like bug to human. I wanted to actually add something and make her look kind of cool. But except for that little bump in the road when it came to actually getting an idea of what she would look like, then my first actual challenge in creating this design is that my art style has very chunky feet. I like having very chunky feet and very squarish shapes on my characters, and that does not work well for Hornet. Hornet is light on her feet, and she's even got like spikes for feet. So actually giving her like these big chunky square feet would be the same as giving a bicycle big chunky square wheels. And it would mess too much with the character and the personality that I wanted to get through in the design, so I decided, you know, I gotta do something that I don't do very often. I gotta go for the almost 100% anatomically correct. There we go, that's the word I'm looking for. Or actually step even further out of my comfort zone and do something like extremely skinny anime legs. So I just grabbed my nearest and near Automata reference and try to get inspired by some poses and the way that they do like their proportions when it comes to leg to torso to head ratio. And despite the fact that it took a really long time and I was really not confident about it, so I actually ended up postponing. I don't know if I left in a few times where I just don't draw at all, because I had a lot of breaks in between this because I was scared of tackling the challenge, but it ended up looking kind of okay. The legs don't seem too awful, everything seems to be sort of fine, and it also helped the fact that I actually still gave Hornet her signature cloak to cover up some of the few anatomy mistakes I might have made. But yeah, that was actually the next issue that I ran into when creating this design, because I didn't know what kind of role her cloak should play. I didn't want to just make it a complete rip-off of the game where it covers up pretty much her entire body, because then all I'd have to do would basically be like drawing like two shoes on the bottom of this big dress, and then I'd have a character. So what I did was that I opened my drawer back here. I found my good old references for how to draw clothing, or how to draw fabric, and I looked up a few tutorials on how to actually draw fabric overlapping and stuff. That stuff's hard, and that's not something you learn in a day, but I've done it a few times before. But I wanted to create this really drastic and big like veil that she could fold around her body. and perhaps even used to her combat advantage to like hide the position of her body, position of her hands, position of her weapon, so her enemies wouldn't be able to block when she would come rushing at them with the veil covering it all up. And I really wanted to actually focus on making it this veil and not just a big cloak, because a big cloak can be kind of boring to look at, so I wanted this very silky, very flowy design. So I kind of looked up some anime kimonos also and stuff, and how their different veils like kind of slur around the body. And you know, I'm actually kind of happy with the result. I thought it ended up looking pretty cool. It's kind of like very dynamic show off of how this cloak is standing, although it might be a little stiff, but that, you know, I don't really draw fabric that often. So, you know, for like a first attempt in a while, I thought that was pretty good. And it was definitely also the biggest like practical road bump. Like it was the most hard to execute part of her design. Her weapon wasn't really that hard. It's pretty much just an upscale of her needle that looks like a cool spear of some sorts. But the final thing that was really hard, or was really hard to satisfy myself with at least, was her hair and her face and her head shape and all that. Now this is very weird for me, because I actually usually very much like to draw hair and faces and all that. I've drawn the head way more than any other body part, I believe. So like I've done so many just portraits and stuff where you can just see the head. So I've gotten pretty used to drawing the facial shape and hair and stuff like that. But I was having a lot of trouble with Hornet's design, because in the original game, she has this splitted horn, elongated head design that is based on the design of like a stag beetle in real life. And creating a hairstyle and a head shape and just somehow getting that shape into the head area was really tough, because I don't know about you, but I don't know any freaking hairstyles that turn into two like horns and go directly backwards or upwards. Not without it looking like really weird and stupid. So I ended up just giving her these kind of royal braids that go around her more barbarian or more like tough girlish ponytail. Because I wanted both a little bit of her heritage and a little bit of her character in there. So she has this more loose ponytail that's kind of like woven around by these more royal braids, because braids are a very royal kind of hairstyle. But yeah, that's pretty much all I really got to say to that. I was also considering whether or not if her cloak should actually like go up and cover her mouth. And in the sketchings, you might also see that I was considering giving her kind of like, oh, what do you call it? I don't remember what you call it, but like you know belly dancers, when you see them in movies, they kind of have this translucent veil in front of their face. I was considering giving her that, because like the cloak or some part of her cloak covering her mouth is also kind of signature-ish of her design, even though I know she doesn't have a mouth, but it just covers the bottom part of her head. So I was wondering whether or not if I should do that, but I just ended up going more in the direction of actually showing off her personality, being this more tough girlish princess. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for this design, and there's, you know, that's completely fine with me, because I'm also almost out of time. If you've been wondering why I'm freaking out of breath and doing like this all the time, that's because I don't have a lot of time left. This is the last thing that I'm recording before I'm going on vacation. I recorded Geometry Dash like right before this, but this is the last actual audio bit that I'm recording. And I just finished this drawing a little bit ago. That's also why the drawing itself might seem a bit rushed, so sorry about that. Sorry about the lower quality, but I really want to see if I could get up to actually having a video for every single day that I'm away. So I guess this is just something that you're gonna have to deal with, and I'm not even gonna be sorry about it. Or well, yeah, I am gonna be sorry about it, because I could have definitely planned this a lot better. But hopefully you ended up liking this drawing, hopefully you ended up liking the design, just as I did. I wish I could have had the time to do a little more shading, and put a little more effort into the details and stuff like that. I really like doing that, especially when I execute a drawing well. Then I like being a little perfectionist and adding a few extra details. But this time around, I just don't have the time. Hopefully we'll have time to do that with some of the other designs that I do. And who knows, I might return and actually do the knight or some other Hollow Knight character and turn them into a human another time. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching. Remember to roast me or give your opinions or anything down in the comments, so I can get a little bit of critique and learn from it, and that way I can start like improving at drawing. It's my primary way of actually improving, so it really helps if you guys give some critique. Thank you so much for that. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.